A big thanks to microphoneforsinging.com for sponsoring this video. They offer the Sodial BM800 condenser microphone kit, which includes the microphone, a shock mount, a pop filter, a desk-mountable microphone stand, an XLR to 2.5mm microphone cable, and a USB adapter so you can plug your mic directly into your computer. This is a great budget-friendly option for aspiring musicians, singers, songwriters, podcasters, or YouTube content creators. Check it out at microphoneforsinging.com. Hey everyone, this is Music Tech Help Guy, and in this video I'll show you how to use multi-timbral instruments in Logic Pro 10. Multi-timbral instruments allow you to create multiple MIDI channels and route them all to a single software instrument. So for example, if you wanted to play in some piano, but you want to separate the parts of the piano, like left and right hand for example, or other MIDI data like sustain pedal, you can do this with multi-timbral instruments. So when you create a new software instrument, there's an option here to check for multi-timbral. And yes, it's pronounced timbral, not timbral. I'm going to split up my instrument into 4 parts, but you can actually do this with up to 16 parts, because there's 16 MIDI channels per MIDI bus. So you'll see in the arrange area that there's 4 channels, but if you go into the mixer, you'll see that there's actually only 1 software instrument. Again, this is because the software instrument for all 4 of these channels will be the same. We're simply going to split up the music and the MIDI data on multiple tracks, but all of that MIDI data will essentially be going to the same MIDI instrument. So for this, I'll select the EXS24, and I'll choose a piano patch. And I'll add some reverb as well. And one thing to note is that if you add audio effects like the reverb or MIDI effects like an arpeggiator, for example, it will affect the entire instrument, not just a single channel out here. So if you want to use different MIDI or audio effects for different parts, you're going to have to use different software instruments. So I'm going to use this multi-timbral instrument to play in different parts of the piano. So I'm going to separate the left and right hand parts. So first, I'll do a left hand arpeggio. Next, I'll do some right-hand chords. And last, I'll do some right-hand high parts with melody. So technically, all of this could be played by a single player on a single MIDI channel, but there's some advantages to doing it this way. One, the obvious, is that although it's possible to play by a single player, I may not be skilled enough or rehearsed enough to do so. 2, I'm using a 25-key MIDI controller right now, so just logistically, I can't play it right now. So this allows me to play it in all as separate parts. 3, it allows you to break up the composition into multiple parts for easier arrangement, scoring, and editing. And 4, it allows you to save on CPU and RAM usage rather than using multiple instances of the same instrument. Yeah, you could use 4 EXS24 tracks here and do the same thing, but if they're all going to be the same instrument patch anyway, why waste the CPU and RAM of loading 4 of them? So the MIDI data you can record on these channels isn't just limited to notes. Let's say I want to add in some sustain pedal. So I could record this separately on this 4th channel here, and then the sustain info will be applied to the entire instrument. So I could do this either by just pressing record and using an actual sustain pedal controller to play in the sustain, or I can just draw it in with MIDI region automation. I don't have my sustain pedal connected at the moment, so I'll write it in manually. So first I'll create an empty MIDI region, and I'll double click on it to open the piano roll editor. I'll click here to show my region automation, and then I'll select sustain pedal as the controller that I want to write in. With sustain, 64 through 127 is the pedal pressed down, and 0 to 63 is the pedal released. So the way I usually write in sustain is I'll have the sustain at 127 most of the time, and then right where I want to pedal, I'll bring it down to 0 and then very quickly bring it back up to 127. Pianists don't pedal directly on the downbeat. They'll play a note or chord and then quickly release and repress the pedal. So that's what I'm simulating here. And then I'll just select this and hold Option to duplicate this pedaling to each new chord change. Now, the EXS24 might not be that much of a CPU hog, but if you're using other third-party sample-based instruments like Play from East West, for example, this can be a different story. Here I've got the Hollywood Strings instrument loaded up, and I've got a 3-part multi-timbral instrument for low, mid, and high strings. So again, I can go in and score each of these parts individually, but if I want to see all 3 parts at the same time, I can do that too just by selecting all 3 MIDI regions and opening the piano roll editor. Now I know someone will ask this in the comments, can you use this for drums, like splitting up the MIDI notes of a drum kit? Yes, you absolutely can, but personally I like to see all of my MIDI notes for my drum beats together on a single region, and what I usually do is I'll break up the sounds as a multi-output instrument for mixing, which is something completely different than multi-timbral. So that's how you can use multi-timbral instruments in Logic Pro 10. I've got 7 channels of MIDI information here, but I'm only using 2 software instruments to power it all. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. You can also check me out on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and if you'd like to make a monthly donation to the channel and see some videos early, check me out on Patreon as well. Thanks for the support, and thanks for watching.